Sri Lanka's External Affairs Minister says the country will open probes into human rights abuses on its own. U.S. Secretary of State Hilary Clinton visits India. And Sri Lankan artists perform in Rhode Island. Hello, I'm Esther Varda. Welcome to SAW News, bringing you news, views, and entertainment from the South Asian community in the United States. A Sri Lankan political prisoner and the former army chief who defeated the Tamil Tigers has been released and may receive a pardon from the Sri Lankan president. His two daughters, who live in the United States, are reportedly with him. Sarath Fonseca was arrested and charged with corruption after he lost the presidential race to current President Mahinda Rajapaksa in 2010. The four-star general ran for president after a dispute over who would take credit for defeating the Tamil Tigers in 2009. Sri Lanka was in a civil war against the Tamil Tigers for almost 3 decades, in which time an estimated 100,000 people died. The military's defeat ended their quest for an independent Tamil state. The announcement of the release coincides with the visit of Sri Lanka's External Affairs Minister to the United States. G.L. Peiris met with top U.S. officials in Washington, including U.S. Secretary of State Hilary Clinton. The United States, as well as other countries, have been very critical of Sri Lanka's human rights records at the end of the Civil War. Earlier this year, the United Nations Human Rights Council passed a U.S.-sponsored resolution calling for the government to implement the recommendations by the Lessons Learned and Conciliation Commission. It urged the country to take a closer look into thousands of reports of civil rights abuses and deaths in the final years of the conflict. According to a spokesperson for the U.S. State Department, during the meeting, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton stressed the importance of demilitarizing the North, protecting human rights, including protection of the press, and general creation of a civil society. Here are some of the comments from both before their meeting.
We were encouraged to see the end of a very long, bloody, terrible conflict, and look forward to working with Sri Lanka as they pursue their commitment to a better future for all the people. And the United States wants to be a supportive partner in those efforts.
We have been able to complete 90% of the work connected with the resettlement of the people who were displaced by the conflict. And there is also a very moving story in human terms with regard to the ex-combatants who have all been rehabilitated. This includes 595 child soldiers. They've all been reintegrated into society after the benefit of exposure to programs of vocational training which equip them to earn their living. Yesterday, I had a very productive meeting in the office of the United States Trade Representative, and the object of that meeting was to explore ways and means of building upon the trade and investment framework agreement which is in existence between our two countries. And I'm convinced that today, more than ever before, with the return of stability and tranquility to our country, there is abundant scope for building further upon a relationship that is already very strong and vibrant. And that is why I'm particularly happy to be here in Washington today to meet with the Secretary of State, to have a candid discussion about the future of the bilateral relationship between Sri Lanka and the United States. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister. Thank you all.
Secretary of State Clinton was in India earlier this month, meeting with top government and business officials. I spoke to Neal Patagoniar, a geopolitics fellow at the Takashashila Institute, about her visit and about U.S.-India relations. Patagoniar has written extensively about the two countries. His work has been published in the Journal of International Affairs, the World Affairs Journal, Economics and Political Weekly, the Christian Science Monitor, as well as many others.
Neal, thank you so much for taking time to talk with us.
Absolutely. It's nice to be here with you.
Well, it looks like Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's recent visit to India paid off a bit. India just announced that it will be reducing imports of Iranian oil to 11%. The United States and Washington would like that number to be much lower. Will that be enough for Washington, and why is this such a big topic?
Well, India's participation in Iranian sanctions is definitely important because it's one of the first or second largest importers of Iranian oil, petroleum, and I think natural gas as well. So its participation in any sanctions regime is going to be extremely important if the sanctions regime is going to do what it's intended to do. But that being said, I think India's sort of caught in a tussle here between the United States on one hand and Iran on the other, because of course India needs sources of energy for its domestic economic growth, and Iran, as I said, provides a good portion of that. And then at the same time, it also depends on Iran for strategic access to Central Asia. Because Pakistan has not allowed India to access Afghanistan through over its territory, it was sort of forced to look a little further afield. So it developed a very strategically important link from the Chabahar port in eastern Iran to Afghanistan's western border. And so this road that India developed took away Pakistan's monopoly on seaborne trade to Afghanistan, and so it opened up a whole other point of access for India and potentially for other countries as well. So it is India is in sort of a difficult position right now, sort of balancing its needs from Iran as well as its political needs from Washington, as well as Saudi Arabia and Israel, who also want to step up pressure on Tehran. So that's sort of where it is now.
Now, another big impact of the secretary's visit was her first stop, and that was to Calcutta. And she met with the chief minister of Bengal, Mamata Banerjee, in the hopes that it would open up some foreign investment by the United States. But the chief minister Banerjee said no way to some foreign investments. Why is that?
Right. I think the biggest issue on the chopping block right now was the entrance of large Western retail firms like Walmart into the Indian markets. And as it functions now, most of Indian retail focuses on a very, very decentralized small-scale level. There's sort of local retailers in each neighborhood that not only in a very small amount of space manage to provide basically every retail good that the household might need, but then there's not only the efficiency of that, there's also the fact that it's sort of a personal relationship that a lot of these retailers can just be called up and delivered at basically any time of the day or night. So there's that aspect. But in a more economic sense, this decentralization does, of course, require a lot more people basically to be involved in it. Whether it's these local retailers or their suppliers or the tons of middlemen that stand between suppliers and the retail distributors and households basically and consumers. So the challenge here is whether to sort of streamline that process or appear to streamline that process by letting large retail firms like Walmart in, or keeping the existing system that employs lots and lots of Indians. And so Mamata Banerjee she has a reputation of being sort of a populist politician, leaning to the left of the ruling Congress party, of which her Trinamool Congress is a coalition partner at the center. And so she's, especially at this point, when there's a global economic downturn, and Indian unemployment has risen, inflation has risen. There are all sorts of very local economic concerns for Indians. I think she and folks who think like her are a little worried that allowing large-scale retail firms into India is gonna take away that employment space that a lot of Indians depend on. So
Okay, Neal, thank you so much for your insight.
absolutely, it's a pleasure to talk to you.
An Indian-born professor at the University of Massachusetts in Boston donated his entire winnings from a prestigious award to an organization he founded. Kemal Bajwa is the 2012 winner of the Gunaria Sustainability Award, the world's first major international sustainability award from the Royal Norwegian Society of Sciences and Letters. Bajwa, a distinguished professor of biology, handed over the 1 million Norwegian kroner, or approximately $170,000 to Bangalore-based Ashoka Trust for Research in Ecology and the Environment. This is a research institution in the areas of biodiversity, conservation, and sustainable development. Bajwa is its founder and president. We spoke to him in Boston before he left for a conference on sustainability in the UK.
Dr. Bajwa, congratulations on your award.
Thank you.
What specific area in terms of sustainability did you work on to earn you this prestigious award?
I think the award is not for a specific area. I have been working on related issues of conservation and sustainability for a number of years, and such awards are generally given for a lifetime of work. And during my fairly long career, spanning about 30 or 40 years, I have worked on issues of tropical deforestation, conservation of biodiversity, and sustainable management of tropical forest resources.
Talk a little bit about what you've done specifically in Central America, Western Ghats, the Himalayas.
In Central America, I largely worked on the issues of tropical deforestation, basic research on population biology of trees and how populations of trees are affected by loss of forest cover and degradation of forests. In Western Ghats, largely worked on the issue of sustainable management of tropical forest resources. And in the Himalayas, I have largely worked on the issues of climate change and how climate change impacts biodiversity and rural livelihoods.
The Rhode Island Council of Arts held their third annual State Asian Art Exhibit reception night in Providence. 13 local artists and 2 visiting Sri Lankan artists were featured. The guest speaker was the coordinating secretary to the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka. There were also performances by Sri Lankan dancers, traditional Laotian dancers, and a beatboxing routine. That's our show for this week. If you have any ideas for stories or comments, email me at esther@bostonlanka.com. See you next week.